Alright, hey guys, so today we're going to jump to lesson 10.7. So we're going from lesson 1.3 to 10.7. It's not a mistake, that's where we're headed, okay? We're going to be talking about circles in a coordinate plane. So to get us started, I wrote some information on the board. The equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Now, in this equation, h and k, that's the center of your circle. That's the center point. Okay, x and y are just any point on the outside of the circle, so they can continuously change since there's infinitely number of points on the outside of the circle. And then r is your radius. Okay, so the first example we're going to look at says, what is the equation of a circle with a center of -2, 3 that passes through -2, 6? Now, like I did for the last lesson, I'm going to show you two different options. One is to sketch it, and if you have graph paper, it's very helpful to have a piece of graph paper. All right, so let's kind of sketch it for a minute and think about what we have, what we need, and where we can go. All right, so -2, 3. This point right there, that's the center of the circle. And then it says that the circle passes through -2, 6. So -2 and then 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So if this is a point on the circle, right, point on the circle, and this is the center of the circle, the center should be the same distance away from all points. So how far away is this center point to the outside of the circle? You can just count units. 1, 2, 3, right? From the center to one of the points outside, that distance is 3. That means that the center should be 3 units from all points. So I could go 3 units down from the center and put a point. I could go 3 units to the right. So 1, 2, 3, put a point. 3 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, and put a point. Right? And it's not going to be beautiful, but there is my circle. So the information that you need in order to write an equation of a circle, you need to know the center, your h and your k, and you need to know the radius length, your r. Well, the center, h and k were given. That's h, that's k. And now looking at my diagram, the center is 3 units away from all points on the circle. So that means your radius is 3. All right? So I'm going to write the equation down. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Now I just have to substitute in the information I know and do some simplifying. All right, so I'm going to have x minus h is -2 squared plus y minus k is 3 squared equals r, which is 3 squared. Okay? All right, so then from there, I'm going to clean up the signs. Minus a negative is going to turn that into a positive 2. This stays as a -3 squared. And then 3 squared, I'm going to simplify to 9. And that is the equation of your circle. All right? Notice before we move on, if you're given an equation like this, think back if I asked what the center points were, what the center of the circle is. You're not going to say 2, -3, right? It's actually -2, +3. So keep that in mind because I will be asking you questions like that in a moment. If you're given the equation of a circle, the center points are actually the opposite of what they appear. It's going to be a center of -2 and +3. And that's because the original equation is minus minus. So what number was plugged in for k? It was a +3. What number was plugged in for h? Well, how did it turn into a +2? It must have been plugging in a -2. So just little things like that that we need to pay attention to. All right. Let me give you another example. So this example, again, I started with the visual and then did the algebra. I'm going to give you an example now where it's not going to be so easy to figure out the radius, and we might want to do some algebra first, okay? So let's take a look. All right. think I don't have to erase all of it. Let me just see. Center and point. Yep. All right, so this one has a center at 0, 2, and it goes through the point 3, negative 2. So let's start with visualizing it for a second. All right. So the center is at 0, 2. That's the center of my circle. And then it goes through the point 3, negative 2. So in the example before, we were able to just kind of count units because from the center to the point it was straight up vertically. But here, we're not straight. Like I can't count units going diagonally. I could do what I've done in the past where I draw a triangle and think about Pythagorean theorem to get the radius length. I could use the distance formula, plug these 2 points into the distance formula to figure out the radius length, right? There's lots of options. Or I could simply just work with the equation of the circle. Remember, when I'm working with the equation of the circle, I need h, k, and r. Those are the pieces of information I need in order to write the equation. Well, I have h, I have k, but I don't have r. But what else are you given? You're given a point, and that can represent your x and your y in the equation. So I'm going to write the equation down again. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And then substitute in everything that you do know. You know your x value is given as 3, or one of the x values I should say. Your h value is 0 squared plus the y coordinate we're using is negative 2. Your k is a 2 squared, and you don't know your r. But see, what you just did was you came up with an equation with one unknown, one variable that you can now solve for. So 3 minus 0 is 3, so now I have 3 squared. Negative 2 minus 2, that's going to be negative 4 squared equals r squared. So that's 9 plus 16 equals r squared. All right, so 9 plus 16 is going to give you a 25 equals r squared. You can actually stop here because for the equation, you actually need to know r squared. You don't need to know r, but let's just figure out r anyway. All right, square root of both sides, you're left with the radius length of 5. Okay, so remember, you need the radius and you need the center to write the equation of a circle, which you now have. So for your final answer, you're again going to write the equation of a circle, just plugging in h, k, and r. I think I need to erase because I'm out of room. Where's my eraser? Sorry, guys. Maybe I'll erase this down here. All right, so hopefully you can keep on working vertically on your paper, but since I'm out of room, let me come over here. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. H and k, 0 and 2, r is 5. So x minus 0 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 5 squared. You're going to clean this up just a little bit. There's no double signs that you have to clean up, but x minus 0, you can just write that as x squared. If you leave it as x minus 0, I'm okay with that as well. Plus y minus 2 squared. And then go ahead and square your radius to get 25. That's why, again, up here, I was saying you can stop at r squared. You don't really need to know what r is equal to. Okay, and there's your answer. So that would be your final answer for the equation of a circle. All right, just a few more little ones to go through. All right. So you might be given an equation and asked to find the center and the radius. So find the center and radius, then graph. We'll just sketch it. Alright, so for the first example, x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 4. And I'm going to ask for the center and the radius, and then we'll graph it. Okay. Alright, so you may want to, under the equation, until you're familiar, write down x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Then ask yourself, what number was plugged in for h? What number was plugged in for k? That's your center. Your radius, well, r squared is 4. So what's r, which is just the radius? Square root both sides and you get a radius of 2. So then you're going to plot the center at 2, 1. And since you know your radius is 2, you're going to go 2 units to the right of the center and plot a point. 2 units to the left, plot a point. 2 units above and plot a point. 2 units below and plot a point. And then you draw your circle. Okay. Let's try another one. Okay, so for this equation, I'm going to have x plus 2, y plus 1 equals 9. So what number was plugged in for each? Remember, it's minus each, but here it's plus 2. That means a negative 2 must have been plugged in, because minus and negative is how that turns into a positive. What number was plugged in for k? Remember, it's minus k, but up here I see a plus 1. If I plug in a negative 1 for k, a minus and negative is how it becomes a positive. So it's always going to kind of be opposite of what you might intuitively think when you first look at the equation. Okay? If r squared is 9, what's r? R is 3. Okay? For graphing this one, you plot your center at negative 2, negative 1. You go 3 units to the right, 3 units to the left, 3 units up, 3 units down. So 3 units to the right, 3 units to the left, 3 units down, 3 units up, something I'm just approximating. Again, with actual graph paper, it would be more accurate. And there's your circle. All right. And that is all I'm going to do. Yeah, that's all we're going to... Oh, no, one more. Sorry, one more. So one more example that I forgot I wanted to go through. Last one for today. All right. So for the next one, I'm going to ask you to find the center, the radius, and then write the equation. Or no, I'm giving you the center and the radius. So the center is negative 5, 7. The radius is 2 root 3. This is the reason I wanted to do this one, because the radius is a little bit different. Okay, so if I asked you to write the equation, hopefully you'd start by writing x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. All right, your center is given, so that's your h and your k, and your r is given, your radius is given. So it becomes x minus, it's a negative 5 squared, plus y minus, it's a positive 7 squared, equals, and your radius, put in parentheses, is 2 root 3 squared. So I just want to clean it up, the signs, any double signs, and that radius, I want to actually square it. All right, so it becomes x plus 5, right, minus a negative becomes a positive, plus y minus 7 squared Now for this next one, just be careful when you're squaring something, like 5 squared, that means 5 times 5. You multiply whatever's given times itself. So 2 root 3 squared means you're going to have 2 root 3 times 2 root 3. You multiply the 2's together to get a 4. You multiply the root 3's together to get a 9. No, root 9, excuse me. Square root of 9 is 3. And then 4 times 3 is 12, okay? So you have to square both the 2, that's where the 4 came from, and you have to square the square root of 3. Squaring the square root of 3 actually cancels, the square root cancels with the square, so you're going to just be left with the 3, okay? So I kind of showed you how to do it longhand. This is kind of a shorter way. In either case, you get a 12. All right. All right, guys, that is the end of lesson, what was this one called? 10.7, I think it was. 10.7, yep. Equations of a circle. Make sure you finish up your notes, and I'll see you back here for the next lesson. Bye.